What's up, guys, and welcome back for another solo mining episode. We are out in a point 0.6 doing, or about to get into some mining. This system is actually extremely, I picked this system as a strategic basis because it's an intercom system. Any system that has a state stellar observatory, we will get a 10% bonus to mining speed. So traditionally, the modulated strip miner 2s will cycle every 180 seconds, but in this system we actually get 162 seconds. So that is a nice 18-second save just because we're in this system here. We just got here too, so I'm actually getting to the point right now where we're going to start kind of nabbing out little bitty bookmarks on some of these belts, but we'll probably use this belt today, and then most likely as we progress, because we have compression in the system as well, so I didn't really worry about bringing the porpoise out to do any weird like compression logistics things. So I am going to be focusing primarily right now on Veldspar, because I do want to have more Veldspar than any other material, just because trit is used in such high quantities. The other thing I thought about doing too is in the future I'm going to be like looking at 0.5 systems that have a 0.4 connection and start trying to get some of the rare ore to collect as well. So that's going to be another thing I'm probably looking at in the next few days. Also, it's just a small update. The BPOs that we bought in the live stream, I've got those in research now, so they're in time efficiency research. So it'll be a while before I want to start those now, because I want all of those to be as researched for mineral and time efficiency as possible before we really start using our materials here. But we're actually pretty far away from Jita, where we're staging everything. But I'm gonna kind of, what I'm gonna be doing over the next few days is mining out here in this 0.6 and just stockpiling in a NPC station here. Basically, I'll fill up the whatever mining ship I'm doing, and then we'll go compress it in a player structure, and then we'll stage it in a NPC structure, and then at some point we'll grab a blockade runner or whatever the case may be, and we'll move that stuff over to Jita. Or we can hopefully I can find a good player engineering complex that we can do our manufacturing in. The reason I am kind of weary about using player structures that I am not affiliated with, meaning I don't know the corporation or I'm not affiliated with that corporation, is I don't like really starting manufacturing jobs that are 7+ days without actually knowing kind of what the situation is with that structure, because they can unanchor that structure at any time. So you might see me doing research or manufacturing in NPC stations. It's a higher tax and all that stuff than citadels, but in certain cases it's actually kind of a hedging my bets as far as stability. But we're chilling right now. This system is pretty low key right now. About 3 other people in local at the moment, so we'll get this all filled up and everything, and start doing multiple trips and kind of see where we land at the end of it. I don't have a survey scanner on this ship, but I'm pretty certain that this is a small, what I call a small rock day, because these Veldspar rocks are relatively tiny. But I think we'll probably end up doing about 2 million in value per trip, and then we'll just do as many trips as we can to kind of fill up an hour worth of mining here. But I do kind of want to just hang out in the system for a few days with this Procurer, and might just focus like Veldspar today, and then focus Plag tomorrow, and then Pyro, and then Scordite, you know, have a day for each of them. We could just kind of, you know, mine whatever, but I feel like just kind of focusing down on a certain type per day is would work out pretty well. This system actually does have all 4 types, so what I am also going to try to do here in the future is get probably a prospect out here, but not for mining in this 0.6. That prospect will essentially be used to kind of scout 0.5s with a 0.4 connection to go after the rare ore to help kind of fill some gaps in. And then that prospect will also be utilized to do some kernite mining, or I might just end up using a venture, because a venture is really hard to catch in low sec. So I'm hoping that we're pretty close to low sec as is. So if I can bring a venture out here, equip it with like a warp core stabilizer or something, we'll be able to grab some kernite and then kind of bring it over here where we're staging everything, and that'll kind of help us start working on that low sec material that we're going to need when we start building stuff. And then as far as null sec, we'll find a good null sec system that we can kind of like jump into, probably using the prospect to grab some stuff there. I'm going to try to not buy any materials for when we're manufacturing. I want to try to actually have ways to get that stuff myself. Alright, so we managed to finish a run. So I'm going to come over here. Normally what I do in these player stations that have compression is I will leave everything here just in case something crazy happens. At the end of this mining session today, when I'm done mining for today, I'll come back. Either I'll come back and get it at the end of the session, or if I've got enough to fill up compressed wise in the Procurer, I'll move it over to our stage area. So we'll go ahead and get this compressed, get it stored, and then we can head back out to grid. Now, we don't necessarily have to dock every single time. We can use cargo deposit there just to kind of speed things up, which I'll probably end up doing. I just want to kind of show the just the kind of process of docking, compressing it all. But that's another thing you do too, is if you're just doing one run after another, just use the cargo deposit, and then ever so often, or at the end of your session, just compress all that stuff. The reason I don't leave it in those player structures is because you never know if you're going to lose docking or whatever the case may be. Let's get all this stuff set back up. We're just kind of like working our nav here. We'll just keep kind of warping to this nav and mining the Veldspar that's in range for us. That's going to be essentially the strategy here. A little time consuming with the if you're used to doing anything like the porpoise or like orca mining, but this system will probably be a good candidate actually for orca mining, I think, since it's relatively uninhabited during the times that I play. But we'll kind of keep an eye out on that and see how all that kind of goes and everything. But like I said, each trip with this Veldspar is about 1.5 actually. It's not 2 million. Now, if we can like get lucky and get some good dense Veldspar, then we might get close to 2 million value per trip. But my goal today is to try to get around 30 million compressed value of Veldspar. If I can do more, I'll do more. But got quite a bit of stuff going on today, so my mining window is not that wide as it normally is. Alright, now that we're back out here and we got all this stuff kind of running, the one thing I'm probably going to end up doing today after this session is go ahead and purchase the orca. And my goal is to try to set up somewhere where we can kind of either decide in the moment if we want to do orca mining, or if we want to do like Mackinac mining or skiff mining or something like that. So the purpose of buying the orca, we might not use it right now, but the purpose of buying it is so I can buy the orca, and I can bring basically the Mackinac out to wherever I'm kind of setting up in the top for the time. So really the shopping list today is essentially orca, and then probably the blockade runner, a crane, and then I'll use the orca to bring those two ships out to wherever I'm gonna post up. Not really sure where I want to go yet, but that way, in probably the next episode, we're probably gonna bring the orca out and do some orca mining in some of these systems or something, and just kind of chill. It's just, the Procurer is great. It's just, we're at a 162 second cycle right now with this. And if we were in the Mackinac, we would be 140, 150 somethings. And also we could just stay out longer. So unless we are dealing with a lot of local activity and just kind of a lot of crazy, obnoxious stuff, I don't see the Procurer being kind of the daily driver for me. But I'm also just trying to like build out her kind of mining assets and things like that. So it depends if, and also it's going to really depend too if I want to add more characters to like this process. I think that like once we get kind of more closer to doing manufacturing, we're going to have to like scale up a little bit just to because an orca boosting a Mackinac on an alt would be as really efficient. So we'd basically be able to like drone mine with the orca at close range. Mackinac would be able to just hit like the corners of the belt and also compress and have that added value. So I haven't really decided if I want to bring in another alt for the operation right now. I'm more or less curious about kind of how we can do with the one, because I just like the simplicity of it. And also it gives us an excuse to kind of like use different ships. Like the purpose behind this series is also not to, because we can obviously like go for like the meta mining setup and just, but doing that same thing every single episode can get kind of, tedious and boring. So I'm actually kind of playing this balancing act of like trying to showcase different types of ships in a solo mining environment, and then just using what we mined as a using the materials or the ore that we mine to kind of work on industry later on. So I'm sure we'll get to a point where we're just going to be using the same ship or the same setup every day, and the goal for the episode is to essentially get to a certain amount of value mined, possibly. But that'll be a while. That'll be several episodes from now when she has all of her assets, because I'm essentially trying to like focus down each episode on whatever new asset she's acquired, and talk about its capabilities, its limitations, its use cases, things like that. But I know for me personally, essentially I'll get to the point where it's going to be like, most likely it's going to be orca and a few alts, probably in hulks, to do like a lot of bulk mining to really kind of stockpile for industry and manufacturing. So picking a system that has a observatory when you're using anything like that, like if you're boosting a Hulk and you get the 10% mining speed bonus from the observatory, you're gonna be sucking a lot of ore at that point. And then also if we like decide to throw MX1005 implants on those alts, they'll really start to shine. Looks like we're almost full here. We could probably actually cut this cycle. What do we got? 700. Let's try it. All right, we are full, so we're gonna cargo dump this and come right back out. So far, it seems that it's taking about 5 minutes or so per trip to fill up the Procurer. It's definitely slow. I think for me, probably beyond this actual episode and like kind of demo or whatever, I think I'll probably most likely just kind of settle into one of the bigger ships just because in order to get like the goal that I have of like 30 million, we're gonna have to do like 25 trips or so, which isn't bad. I mean, this is essentially, I like to call it a monitor alt. So this character lives on a monitor and just kind of does its thing as I kind of accomplish other Eve related activities. But there's just a lot of hands-on. I mean, every 5 minutes we're moving off grid, we're emptying and doing that kind of stuff. But yeah, we're slowly kind of, getting some value today and everything. But I'd probably guess in like an hour or so, we're not going to be anywhere close to my goal, I don't think, but that's fine. I think the big kind of goal for me for this episode was to like kind of show the State Stellar Observatory and kind of how it affects mining and things like that. And the Procurer is great, don't get me wrong, I like the Procurer. I just think that like if you're in a situation where you're not being harassed or really in any imminent danger, you can almost certainly be better off using a Retriever or a Mackinac, or boosting some Hulks or Covetors or something like that. We could see a little bit more of quality of life by going from like the Procurer to a skiff. We could stay out a little bit longer and things like that, but I don't know. I used to really love running the skiff, and the Procurer is great in certain like null-sec applications, but for high-sec and stuff like we're doing right now, it's not really great. I think I talked a little bit in the beginning of the series about kind of setting up shop in a high-sec system, and I'm a really big advocate of like routine, especially when it comes to like mining. Now, I've done it in both kind of scenarios where I've operated out of a single high-sec system for an extended amount of time, and also on the other side of that, I've done mining in kind of a different system every single day. And for security reasons, and if like avoiding a lot of confrontation, that approach is certainly something that will help. But if you do find a good high-sec system that you don't have a whole lot of problems in, I 100% enjoy the kind of the routine, because when you start moving around different systems and things like that every day, in the beginning, as you start like kind of nabbing those common systems, then you're kind of starting every day the same. You're going out there and you're having to make bookmarks. You're having to like check out structures and see if there's compression and, all that stuff. And that's a lot of logistical stuff going on, as opposed to, kind of hanging out and picking a system as a temporary home for like a week or two. You already can place bookmarks at all your belts and things like that. So every day after reset, or whenever you're able to actually get on and mine, it becomes as simple as just undocking, going out to a nav and starting to mine, and not having to really worry about too much mining downtime in terms of kind of scouting and kind of setting up bookmarks. And for me in the past, that's been the one thing that's I've been able to kind of really scale a lot of operations and do a lot of ISK earning and a lot of yield, and that comes strictly from just setting up shop and just hanging out in a system, like picking a system as a home for a while. The other added benefit too is if you're operating in a system every single day, you're going to start noticing who the locals are. You're going to start noticing who is not local, and it's going to give you a good idea of the volatility of the system and if it's safe to mine. Like if you walk in or if you fly into a new system, it's the first and only day you've ever kind of operated in that system, you run the risk of not really knowing the neighborhood, so to say. And if you're going out there mining in a belt and there's an obvious like ganker squad in local that the locals know about but you don't, because you're the new kid on the block, then you potentially set yourself up for a bad time. Intelligence and just intel in general and Eve is vastly important regardless if you're mining or if you're ratting or whatever the case may be. It's just the more you know. It's that old adage: the more you know, right? The better off. The more you know, the better decisions you can make in the moment. So this system is probably going to be where I'm going to be hanging out for a while. And I do I haven't done really high level, high sec mining in a long time. A lot of the stuff I've done has been kind of purely for the sake of like making videos and stuff like that. But it's been a long time since I've actually set up in a system, had all the assets that I like to have, and the array of things that I can use, and just kind of every day just doing a thing. And I think that is kind of where I'm wanting to kind of trend this series. I think that's a lot of value in just kind of seeing how somebody would kind of operate day to day as a solo miner. That's my biggest kind of goal. So with that being said, a lot of what I'm going to be doing the next few days is actually moving assets in and kind of start showing what ships and what modules and the things that I kind of keep on hand and why. And we'll go through like a lot of mining, and then we'll get to the point where it's time to take stuff to market or start manufacturing with what we've got, and show the reprocessing and how I do that, and how I go from basically Asteroid to a end product essentially. That is definitely something that I'm interested in. I'm also just trying to I want to kind of time this run. So I'm gonna leave this actual segment running so that we can kind of see. I want to say it's like 5 minutes. Actually, I think it's less, more than that actually, because since we left the station, it's already been like 5.5 minutes. So we're not even halfway. I want to say it's probably like 10 minutes per run. My first estimate at 5 minutes earlier in the video was extremely generous. So just I'm having a difficult time with this Procurer. I know a lot of people that I've talked to and I've seen kind of comments for in the videos is there are a lot of people that actually run Covetors and Hulks without like a boosted ship just because of their roll bonuses and stuff like that. For me, I've always considered the Hulk and the Covetor a fleet ship. I've never really used them solo outside of them explicitly being boosted by an Orca or a Porpoise. I think that's just kind of where those ships kind of shine. Now, none of their roll bonuses that inherently say, hey, these have to be used, and these are more beneficial as a boosting ship. But I think a lot of that mindset came more from before the Hulk kind of got a little bit EHP boost and things like that from patches. But in kind of like the box I've kind of in my mind, the box I've put the Covetor and the Hulk in, it's like these are lower tanked mining ships with extremely high yield, so they more, I guess, realistically fit better in like the fleet kind of context. But I'm actually really kind of curious. We're already going to have a Hulk. We're already going to have an Orca. We have the Porpoise and stuff like that. So, my goal, and like if you really want to see how I like to mine solo in high sec, it's 100% going to be Orca and a few alts in Hulks. That's just kind of how I run it. We'll probably run mod 2s on those guys, get implants for them, the whole bit. That's just how I like to do it. But also, just kind of going back to like what I've talked about with people about like running the Hulk or the Covetor without even a command ship on grid. I'm actually interested to see as well. So that might be on the shopping list today, is just grabbing a Hulk and just kind of taking out without any command ship and see how it feels, because that's definitely something that I haven't really done, because I've always just in my mind, for whatever reason, I've always just kind of paired that ship with a command ship, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but seeing the Hulk as like a potential solo ship, unboosted, intrigues me. So we're almost done with this cycle. Yeah, it's straight up like 10 minutes to fill this bro up. So that means we're going to be doing like 1.5 per trip. So 8 million ish, maybe 9 million. We'll be very generous and we'll say 10 million an hour with compressed value with the Procurer. 10 million, not horrible, but not great. So it would essentially take us 3 hours to do 30 million compressed ore value, which is what I initially was kind of shooting for. But and also, since we've done like a couple of episodes now to being like an hour long, I think the Mackinac and the Porpoise, those ships and the way that they mine, it's kind of hour-long videos for those guys make a little bit more sense. Procure, 10 minutes to fill up. We're not going to sit here and do, sitting here showing like 6 potential trips uncut. As you can probably guess, each trip is essentially the same, with very little change. So I think what I'm going to try to do is, instead of trying to have like that hard and fast rule of like 100% being an hour-long episode every time, I think I'm just going to let the videos be as long as they naturally feel like they should be. So I do enjoy making the longer form videos. I think an hour on some cases can be kind of gratuitous, and that's also just kind of like to help keep content moving, because I could sit here for several hours and mine in this Procurer, which is all well and good, or I can show you guys how I do a Procurer mining in high sec, and then close that video out and then go grab that next ship and start working on that next bit of content. So I'm really just trying to I'm really trying to experiment and find like the best kind of format for this series, because I do think that it's really intriguing to see kind of the process and things, and then just trying to figure out the best way to like deliver it, whether it be like long form, short form. And I do plan on doing some special episodes that will be live streamed. I'm thinking maybe the Orca video will grab the Orca, come out here and just kind of live stream that episode, because the Orca episode could literally be like hours and hours long. And that's another thing I kind of thought about too, is actually shifting the episodes to being essentially live streams. So if I'm out here mining like this, I can kind of treat it a lot like Q&A with chat and answer some questions and things. It's just I'm fighting with my internet provider right now to try to get more stability on my megabits up right now, because even though I've been streaming 6 megabits to YouTube, which I could technically do more with YouTube, it's just been a pain in the ass, because it just ends up, my megabits up ends up like fluctuating like randomly and for no good reason. Like I don't ever get like disconnected from like Eve or whatever game I'm playing. It's just like that I'll go from 3 or 2 megabits all the way up to like 25 to 15. So every time it drops like kind of below 6 megabits and I'm encoding or I'm streaming at a certain bit rate, it starts to like do crazy stuff. Which if you watch the last live stream I did, it ended up getting cut off because of just like some random just random craziness going on. I think that we've seen pretty much all there is to see in terms of the Procurer mining. I'm gonna continue mining out here and stuff like that, but I kind of want to just kind of have this episode be at the 30-minute mark for the most part. We've done 7 7.7 million compressed. So I think that yeah, you're looking at probably roughly like 9 to 10 million an hour kind of with this setup. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. The next one we'll either be doing Orca, or we'll play with the Hulk or something. I don't know. We got quite a bit of assets to acquire today for her, get them moved into system and things. But we're gonna start, turning up the dial here and really start stockpiling a lot of this stuff as fast as possible. But thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.